Welcome to our series on taking the stress out of habit change.
We're two health professionals hooked on habit change with a mindfulness twist.
Dr. Jan, I love working with you and mostly learning from you. You have this really practical approach to behavior change. As a psychologist who specializes in working with executives and professionals, but you pull in your background of corporate business experience and your expertise in mindfulness with psychology. And it's such a unique and refreshing approach.
And Janet, I love your radical approach to exercise. This blending you're doing, drawing on your background in clinical exercise physiology as a certified health coach, but the way you're putting that together, the motivation science, the movement science, and the mindfulness in this package that's just perfect for anyone experiencing pain, fatigue, or just low motivation.
So we met on LinkedIn in 2020, and we quickly discovered that there's this synergy between our areas of expertise and our passions. So we decided to join forces.
And we're so excited to share with you the fruits of this collaboration of how to take the stress out of habit change and make it stick.
The weight issue can be so surface, right? And I know you say
Yeah.
this too, that, oh, I'll just have to lose weight. I have to eat well and exercise and then I'll lose weight. And it seems so simple on the surface, but there's so much below the surface. And today I'm really looking forward to us talking more about this real foundational skill that is so important and a game changer for weight, that I've seen that no matter what people do, whether it's medication, surgery, diet and exercise, hypnosis, anything that they do, if guilt, shame, and fear are at the foundation of that motivation, it won't last. But
Yeah.
when self compassion and self forgiveness and self kindness are at the root of that, yeah, now you've got something that can really grow and be sustainable. And that is a game
Yeah.
changer.
So I think maybe the number one message that we're trying to get across is that if you have this base of mindfulness and self-compassion, then you've got a chance of getting these other things to work. Number one, to work well, to stick, and that you'll
Yeah.
be happy with the results, as
Yeah.
opposed to always being afraid that you can't trust yourself, so you have to force yourself to exercise or keep weight
Right.
off, etc. That and fear that it's going to come back, or
Mm.
that it's just a whole. It's just a whole. Like you said, this is going to take more than one session to cover.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot more here below that iceberg, right? There's a lot more here that when we bring it to the surface, it works. And you know what? People are like, that's so simple. Like it's so simple and we forget it. And I love how you, when we were talking, you talked about the research about self-compassion. And I love how you brought up the number one barrier to self-compassion.
Yes, like I noticed even when I was saying the words mindfulness and self-compassion, I have a little bit of a uh, hitch when I say that, because I'm aware that people generally don't react too positively to those words, and
Yeah.
I understand why. That at least from what I know from Kristen Neff's research, the number one reason people don't want to be self-compassionate is they're afraid they're going to lose their edge. In other words, their motivation, their drive,
Yes.
that they're going to just be lazy and, not try. And um, it's like nothing is further from the truth. It's just the exact opposite. But I can certainly understand why people feel that way, because we
Mhm.
have, like we've talked about before, there's an inner pusher committee member in us, and it's not
Mhm.
really connected to our physical body. It doesn't care about our physical body. It just wants us to get things done, check boxes, produce. And there's a certain good feeling,
Mhm.
feel good chemicals, that get generated when you do that. But it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work as a long-term motivator. So it's very, this whole concept of self-compassion, it is very different. And I think it might be important that we're really clear about
Mhm.
how it works and why that foundation has to be there, and address right away people's reluctance or their disenchantment with it. Concern about it. That don't talk to me about that because that's going to screw everything up. That's not going to help me. And so we have to kind of like get over that misconception or that obstacle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a skill, definitely. And one that, to get the buy-in for it, right? And so that research is so helpful because it's like, okay, if that's the sticking point to the real solution here, to end the struggle, to take the stress out of habit change when it comes to weight loss, if that's a key solution is to have self-compassion skills, then how do we make it more user-friendly and less scary? And I think a lot of this is you have to just experience it and try it and really look back at the other side, right? And say, oh, you know what, all those times I was so hard on myself, or I hired someone to be really hard on me, I went to this really strict program, what happened? And learn from the history, right? Oh, every time I pushed, I went the other way, and I'm in this all or nothing cycle. And I know I just have to get myself, I hear this all the time, I just have to make myself do it. I just have to kick myself in the butt, or if someone kicked me in the butt. I hear that all the time from people, and that I just have to make myself do it and be tougher on myself. And we believe that. I really think that, that we think of weight loss as a project, right? Or health as a project, right? So if I had a work project in my home or at work, I'd be like, all right, let's dig in. The harder I work, the faster I get this done and I get to this goal. And we go from point A to point B, and the harder I work, the faster I get there. And that's true for other things. Sure, if I could, work really hard and get there. But health is not a goal, and weight loss is not a goal. And we set weight loss goals. And I think that sets us up for the mindset that I just got to get there and everything will be better. And then I'll be motivated, and then I'll feel better, and then it'll be better. And I can tell you over and over again, I've had people come back after weight loss surgery and they're like, I don't feel better. I feel worse. My pain is worse. I'm so worried I'm going to gain this back. I'm weaker. We forget that all these changes that happen when the scale says you're successful is that you lose muscle, and that's strength, and that's your ability to age well 100%.
Yes.
I worry that weight loss surgery is causing frailty. It's not causing health, it's causing frailty. So I worry about that. So we've got to keep the muscle on. So we kind of forget what's happening below the surface. So instead of the scale being that goal, thinking of it as, how do I create this system in my body that is going to help my body find a way to shed extra weight that it doesn't need? How do I tell my body not to hold on to extra weight? Which leads us back to the self-criticism thing, right?
I think, based on what you just said, I would say like the two main issues here are one that we just touched on, that you have to be hard on yourself. And that's just so ingrained. So just to have the opportunity to put it out there that that's not true. Actually, it's just the opposite. So one other little research tidbit on self-compassion, it's actually more linked to happiness and well-being, success, and not just being happy, but actual success than self-esteem is. Is that not interesting?
That's so interesting, right?
Yes.
And you working with executives, people who are professionally successful, right? They have worked really hard and gotten promoted. You've talked about this. You've seen that kind of inner pusher at work there, and it's worked for them. It's worked for them. So why wouldn't it work for this? And but it doesn't apply to this.
Yes, it's like drive, and you really have to push yourself. You have to be hard on yourself. Make yourself, again, it's using force, willpower, that kind of thing. So we just are so hypnotized by that, and it's just it's such a detriment. And the other thing that I think is the biggest obstacle is that we think that we have to make some in order to get motivated, because number one, if you have to be hard on yourself, well, like we said before, guess what, your brain is going to pick up on that and not like that, and not want you to do that, number one. Therefore you've got to hire somebody to force you, to make you, and then so you lose trust in yourself.
Yeah, it's this whole cycle, and it all comes from this using guilt, shame, and fear as a motivator. When it's sourced with that, it's like a fire made of paper. It's going to burn out really quickly. It's not meant to fear. We're not meant to use fear as a motivator.
Yeah,
It's not a lasting energy source.
yeah,
But it's in every stage of weight loss. And when we gain weight, we have fear. When we lose weight, and when we have lost weight and are successful, then we're fearful that we're going to regain it. And I
yes,
think, like you, I love what you said, that hypnotized, right? Because it hijacks our brain, and in our body, it puts us in a stress state, which interestingly, that self criticism puts our body in a chronic stress state, which tells the body it's not a good time to lose weight. So here we are thinking, oh, I'm so motivated, I'm making progress, I'm so successful. And meanwhile, we're in a chronic stress state, and our body is literally working against us because
yeah,
we're in the state that prevents weight loss, that actually makes us hold on to fat. And
yeah.
yeah.
And I think another thing that's really helpful to point out is that we're talking about mindfulness and self compassion as a foundation from
Mm.
which you can build on or add in other elements. So that's the message that we're trying to get out there is not that, okay, it's only this is all you have to do, and it'll take care of
Mhm.
everything. I certainly don't. I want to be really clear on that message. That's not what
Yeah.
we're saying. That you can, if you have that foundation, you can add on things like counting calories or weighing yourself, which again, you have to be so careful about because if you start with that, it doesn't work. It's layered on top, and that's tricky. That's very tricky. But there is a place for that, or even a place for weight loss surgeries or medications. And even back to the guilt, shame, fear motivators, I was just appalled recently when I saw a headline that there are people who have used weight loss drugs to achieve weight loss, and one of their side effects is they feel guilty and ashamed
Mm.
that they had to do that to lose the weight. That somehow they should have been able to just do
Yes.
it with. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's really
Oh,
too bad. It's kind of
yeah.
like, to me, I'm just glad we have all these things available to us. And I think what you and I are trying to do is saying, when you have this foundation, you can add these things in. And say,
Mhm.
for example, counting calories may be helpful. It won't be triggering you to eat more. Like oftentimes, when you get on a restrictive weight loss plan and you're counting calories in a restrictive way, not just kind of like tracking, how you're doing or what happened, um, it can trigger you to eat more.
Yeah.
It's like
Isn't it amazing?
that restriction
Yeah.
mindset, when you, again, your brain, I know this personally, when you think you're being deprived, I mean, that is the kiss of death because
Yeah.
I will not be deprived.
And your brain is hardwired to not. I mean, deprivation is death, right? Like if you deprive calories, your brain is hardwired to want to see calories. So if you're
Yes.
depriving, your brain is hardwired to fight against that. So we're really working against ourselves. And one of my favorite research studies, because I love chocolate, and for a while the cravings kind of really took over, and I thought, oh, this is, maybe it's not such a good idea. And so I read this study that talked about self-compassion and chocolate cravings specifically, and I tried it,
Really?
and it worked. Every time I wanted a chocolate, I just put my hand on my heart and I used a little self compassion, like, oh, okay, I'm noticing that craving. And sometimes I would go ahead and eat it after, sometimes I didn't. But wow, my chocolate cravings went away. They
Wow.
literally went away, to the point that people were like, what's wrong with you? What happened to you? My kids were like, Mom, you don't have chocolate. And it literally, like, I could not believe how much it went away. And I was floored by that. I didn't think it would have such a powerful effect, but
Yeah.
it makes sense from a physiologic standpoint. If that craving is my brain looking for some chemicals, and just putting my hand on my heart and being compassionate solves those chemicals, it makes sense from a chemical standpoint, right? And so
Yeah,
I think
that's
that,
very, yeah,
isn't that,
go
I love
ahead.
that research, right? And I think, but we have to be willing to say, oh, I'm going to even think about doing that. Why would I even? That's so silly. Someone's going to think I'm so silly, And so we have to be willing to
Yes.
say, you know what, this discomfort of having food cravings, of wanting to lose weight, of not having an instant solution to losing weight, this discomfort that I'm feeling is my body and my brain asking me to try something different. It's asking me to be taken care of.
Mhm.
And I think that that's where self-compassion works, is that when we have negative emotions and feelings and uncomfort and discomfort in our body, it really is our whole person saying, I need help. I want you to take care of me,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And
And I
at that root, yeah.
and I like what you're saying too about you're kind of differentiating, I think, between cravings and eating chocolate.
Yeah.
That there's that it's not that much fun to eat from a craving, in my
Hmm.
experience,
Yes.
because basically we're not in control and it
No.
doesn't feel very good to be out of control.
Right.
So that working with cravings helps us feel well, it helps us gain more self-regulation. It's more
Hmm.
freely chosen. That's the word I'm looking
Yes.
for. That if you do eat something, a second helping or, a piece of chocolate cake or whatever it
Yeah.
might be, there's a
Yeah.
difference when it's freely chosen.
Hmm.
There's a mindfulness to that. And again, that's something we're trying to dispel here. I guess myths that what we're saying is you would never succumb to a craving, or you would never eat chocolate again, or
Yeah.
no more French fries, or whatever it is. And that is not what we're saying.
Right.
That it's more when it feels good, it's enjoyable, it's part of the
Yes.
joy of mindful eating, when you get to really enjoy your food because you're kind of in control of yourself and you're
Yeah.
freely choosing
Yeah.
what and how much you want to eat. It is kind of a freedom from cravings. Not that they
Mm.
always that they go away, but boy,
Yes.
learning to work with them has it's been really very powerful for me. Very
Yes.
powerful.
It's really powerful, and it heals that relationship with our body and our brain, right? And it says, oh, okay, the cravings are here. And yeah, like you said, it gives you that freedom. And I think that we've talked about this, that part of the problem with weight is there's no instant relief. And so we're looking
Yeah,
for those quick fixes because we can't fix it right away and we want to feel better right away. And that's what those cravings are. We want to feel better right away. And so if
good
self
point.
compassion and mindfulness really solve that root and give us that freedom instantly, wow. I think that's
Yeah,
why it works as a foundation, right? Because it gives us that instant feeling of freedom and this sense
yes.
of ownership
And
and
I would
yeah,
and I
right.
would also say empowerment, because again,
Yes.
when you're in the throes of a craving, it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah.
what it's all a level playing field. We all
Right.
have cravings of some kind.
Yes.
Everybody deals with it. But again, you know, my sense of it doesn't feel good to be out of control. Like this
Hmm.
external thing
Right.
has power over me. So
Yes.
being able to work through a craving, it's a way of basically getting my power back. It's
Yeah.
empowering,
Yeah.
and then therefore it can be freely chosen. Because if you're
Hmm.
not really in control, it's not freely chosen, you
It's
know?
true. Yeah. So
And that's what
mindfulness and self compassion. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was going to say that's one of the things I hope we can focus on a little more, as we continue this focus on whether it's the exercise side of it, the
Hmm.
movement side of it, or the
Yeah.
weight side of it. We're taking on topics that are they're very tricky to discuss. They really are.
Yes. Yes.
And I hope this just lays kind of, again, a foundation for at least some of the ways that we're approaching it or thinking about it, and maybe we'll flesh those out, as we
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah. I think you're right. We're talking below the surface. We're getting to the roots of this rather than just talking about the surface stuff and the stuff that people feel like guilt, shame, and fear when they gain weight, lose weight, how they lose weight, all those emotions that are not really talked about with it. And this is kind of circling back to that rethinking exercise. My definition of exercise is when you're moving for the sole purpose of whole person self-care.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, an hour, it doesn't matter. If the intention is taking care of your body, then that's exercise, because what you're practicing, which the word exercise means to practice, what you're practicing is self-care, taking care of yourself in a way that um, gives your body what it needs to clear a stress response, to improve mobility, strength, and stamina, to feel better now, to clear good brain chemicals, all that kind of stuff. But that, one of those foundations is movement science. It's not going to happen if you plank. It's not going to happen if you do sit-ups, you do core workouts, you do fitness challenges. All those things deny movement science principles. So
Uh-huh.
doing the kind of weight loss, fix my body approach to weight loss with exercise really deteriorates that ability to use self-compassion. Right, you can do all the self-compassion in the world through
Uh-huh.
food cravings and all the self-compassion practices, but then if you're beating your body up through movements that are not the way your body's designed, or even thinking that you have to do it that way, it's a wash. Right, you're
Yeah.
undoing it. You're practicing not being kind to your body and embodying in your cells not being kind. Yeah, and I see it right away when I teach people how to do a simple movement like get up from a chair in a movement science way. And normally they're limited by knee pain or back pain. And when I teach them the movement science way to get up out of a chair and they don't have pain, their face, it embodies that freedom that you're talking about. It's like, what? like I showed it to somebody and they were like, I feel like I just witnessed like magic or something. Like, nope, it's just science.
Yeah.
But we're so far removed from how our body's meant to move, and we think, oh, I have to lose weight to be able to move better. I love to show people how to move at a weight that is higher, because then if you move well at that weight, then you can move well every step of the way and feel good every step of the way.
That
And then
is
that becomes embodied kindness,
that
and
is
then it's much
fabulous.
easier. Yeah, that's being kind to your body, and that's easier. I think it's easier to embody kindness rather than think it through your brain,
Yes,
right?
that makes total sense. So, and well, it's like what you had said earlier. You really need an experience
Yeah,
of self-compassion
yeah,
or mindfulness
hmm,
or whatever that,
yeah,
or even like getting through a craving.
yeah,
uh, of just going through that is a practice,
mhm, yeah,
of getting through a craving. Um,
yes,
that that's that embodied awareness
yeah.
that
It's little by
that
little. It's a skill.
yes, but boy, once you've had that, you
Yeah,
do feel it. It's not
yes,
just something you're trying to think, but it is a felt sense experience. Okay,
yeah,
then you're kind of on your way. You're seeing the results, and you're not as skeptical. Let's say
mhm,
of the self compassion, the mindfulness, these radical ways of thinking. That
yeah,
we're proposing.
yeah.
So
I think what we're saying is, don't believe us. Try it for yourself.
exactly,
Just try it and be willing to just try it and see what happens, and keep trying to find your way
yeah,
to use self compassion, because there's a lot of different ways to use it.
yeah,
You don't have to put your hand on your heart. Um,
yes.
yeah, it's very individual, and you have to find what really works for you to make it work.
It's really helping me, really get it why I like this topic so much, taking the stress out of habit change.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
got a mindfulness twist, and the idea is that you can do this in a way that it sticks,
yeah. It really works.
because it's coming from inside.
Yes.
What are the key takeaways from what we discussed today? What would you say they are?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I would say that don't do anything yet. Like, don't dive in. Start by just noticing what's fueling you. Is it shame, guilt, or fear? Is it those emotions? And really take a look at that. Be willing to sit with it. That in of itself takes a great deal of courage, to just notice those emotions. But
Yeah,
when you notice them, then okay, am I using a lasting source of motivation here? Or is this something that's going to burn out quickly and really get in the way of weight loss? And I think that's what we really try to hit home here, is that for your brain, for your body, stress, fear, you know, guilt, shame are not fuels for motivation. Being hard on yourself, toughing it out, willpower, they're not lasting. So if we want sustainable and you want this time to be the time that you really, really make peace with your weight and you lose weight, I think the first thing to do, and this is a hard one, is to forgive yourself for gaining weight, forgive yourself for how you lost weight, forgive yourself for where you are now.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's not an easy ask. I know
Yeah.
that.
Yes. I am aware. Yes.
Yeah. Because like you were
Yeah.
saying, we think if I forgive myself, I'm letting myself off the hook. No, I need to be, I let myself down. I was bad this, I was bad that. And I think that then we're just going to continue using fear and guilt and shame as a motivator. But if we really
Yeah.
say, you know what, all right, what got me here? Yeah, a divorce, a stressful time in life, and really, like you were talking to a good friend, if a good friend said to me, yeah, I just gained 30 pounds, 40 pounds, I went through this divorce. They're like, yeah, you've been through the ringer. Like, of course, that was hard.
Yeah.
You couldn't take
Yes.
care of yourself. That was really hard. So, just to acknowledge where your energy was going and why the weight came on, and acknowledge
Yeah.
that you really want to take care of yourself now. And this is an act of self care. And I think when
Yes.
we do that, I think that it's a game changer. We start off with this foundation of saying, I care about you and I am not going to let you, um, I'm not going to let you use fear and shame and guilt as a motivator. I'm really here to support you. And that's wholeness, right? That's
Yes.
whole person. When your brain and body and spirit start talking to each other with kindness, you can be whole. And I
Yeah.
think that that's the takeaway, is that, you know what, if you really want change that's going to last, if you want to take the stress out of this, you got to stop making it stressful by beating yourself up, and forgive yourself.
Yes.
Move on from
Yes.
there.
Yes. That fits right in with these other antidotes I think we were talking about, that we're so afraid that if we forgive ourselves, that it's going to make things worse, or at least that we're not going to get any better. We just let ourselves off the hook. You're just dismissing it. Oh, I'll start again tomorrow. And there is a way that people can use that very non-productively, but that's not what we're talking about. But again, it is a game changer. It's very counterintuitive, many of the things that we're talking about. So you wouldn't think forgiving yourself would be a good idea at all. And it actually is incredibly powerful. And I'll just throw in this one last little piece of research that kind of is a testament to that. And it's actually a study that was done on procrastination.
Mm.
And it was done by a university professor who was studying his students. And for those who procrastinated in studying for a test, those who forgave themselves actually got back on track and studying faster sooner than
Wow.
those who procrastinated and beat themselves up. Now, is that not
Wow.
interesting?
That is so powerful. We can all
Yeah.
relate to that, right?
But
Yeah.
that's exactly
Yes.
what we're talking about. So
Yeah.
sometimes just hearing an example, a research-based example, is good enough to spark what you just said earlier
Mm.
of don't take our word for it, try it for yourself.
Yeah. And maybe try it in an easier way. I love that research, because it says if you use self-compassion in one area of your life, you're building that skill that you could apply to weight loss. So if it's too hard to
Cool.
forgive yourself for gaining weight or how you lost weight or anything like that, do it with something else. Forgive yourself for the mess that you left in your house. Start small.
There's all kinds of
There's all kinds
opportunities
of
to
things.
forgive yourself.
There's 10
There's
right now.
there's never, there's always
Yeah.
something on that list.
Right. I love Jane
Exactly.
Fonda's quote, which is, Jane Fonda said, we're not meant to be perfect. We're meant to be whole. And we
Yeah.
are whole. And so when we forgive ourselves for not being perfect, but really recognize that we're whole, it's a lot easier to say, yeah, you know what? I messed up. Okay.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
can actually get moving again. So
Yeah. I love that.
excellent.
Great. Great.
Yeah.
I can't wait till the next episode of how to take the stress out of habit change and make it stick.
So use the links below to subscribe to our YouTube channels, and we'll see you on the next episode.